Hi, everybody. Welcome to Queer Stories on the Swan, a podcast where two gay men chat and discuss all things queer in the Perth LGBTQIA+ community. I'm your host, Chris.
And I'm your other host, Christo. And in today's episode, we're talking to James Long, talking about his coming out story, his move from the country to the city, his theatre career, and his book passion.
So sit back and enjoy the show. And we're back after a week break. We needed that just have a bit of a breather.
Yes.
But Christo, how was the week off?
It was nice. Yeah, it was good. Didn't do too much. I went to hospital, if that's exciting.
Yeah. So tell us about that. You had a bit of an interesting story you were telling me.
Yes, I because of cystic fibrosis, which I have, I get polyps. So basically that's like little lumps that grow in your nose and disgusting. Anyway, they had to basically remove all that, clear out my sinuses. And since my last operation, which was 2017, my right eye has been just constantly watering. So the duct itself was blocked. So they had to basically cut that open and fix it so I can stop watering my eye. Yep. Wow.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So now I don't have an emotional side of my face.
I was going to say, there was times we were recording episodes and I was like, why is he crying?
Yeah, I'm so emotional.
We just did the intro. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But that's good. That's good. So you're covering well?
Yes, very well.
Excellent. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad.
I spent one night in the hospital, so it's good.
Yeah, well, one night. To me personally, one night's enough. But I know some people have to go through multiple nights. I for those who have to go through multiple nights in hospital, you are so brave because hospitals just freak me out. I've had two. Oh no, I've had one overnight recovery from tonsillectomy. I'm so glad those things are gone.
Many.
yeah, surgeries are not fun. So in my week off, well, it was just a lot of getting a lot of TAFE work done. I am as of next weekend. So by the time this comes out, starting Saturday onward, I'm going to be on Boom Radio, which is the student station I told you guys about.
Yes. Last time.
Some other time. Happening at North Metropolitan TAFE in Leederville, and it's called Boom Radio. So I'm going to be on it 4 times a week. So
oh my god,
I have Monday breakfast from 7 till 10. So nice and early for me, and Thursday drive. So it's called drive. So Thursday driving home from 4 till 7. And then I'm going to have on Saturday night something called the Hype from 7 till 10. It's the top 20. So hey, I'm here with the top 20, all you kids and you fellow young people. So that's called the Hype. And then on Sunday is the show that I was teasing earlier. Whenever it's called Boom Loud and Proud, and it is a queer show, which is a first for. Actually, apparently it's not the first, but it's the first fully realized queer show. So it'll be from 7 till 10 on Sunday nights. Just playing a lot of queer artists, Australian queer artists, gay icons. So don't worry, Britney's in there, Gaga's in there, Kylie, so much great stuff on there. And that's going to be 3 hours a week. And I want to try to get some guests on there. So if anyone wants to give a call in and let me know. Hit me up on socials, and then we can get you organized in there. Nothing too much. It's not going to be a podcast episode or anything. That being said, if you want to join the podcast, then feel free to DM me or Christo or our Queer Stories on the Swan socials. Yes. And hey, we need to celebrate a milestone because our first episode 1 with Aaron, has officially surpassed 100 plays.
Oh my god,
yay! We've had 100 people listen to Aaron. So hey, Aaron, you're definitely
listen to everyone else.
Yeah. I mean, we got some listens there too. That's all right. But yeah, we've definitely got an audience as well. No new reviews or anything this week, but that's all right. That's all right. We got plenty of time to that. Anyway, so we've prattled on long enough. Let's bring in our guest. He's a friend of mine. His name is James Long. He is wonderful, very chatty. So we're definitely going to have a longer episode this week. So for those who've been following, if you've been noticing the episode's getting shorter and shorter and shorter,
it's not our fault.
Guaranteed this is not going to happen this time. It's going to be longer. All right. But let's get into it. Let's get James on.
Cool.
Hi everyone, this is Aaron from episode 1 and you're listening to Queer Stories on the Swan. Always remember to stay fabulous.
So we've got Dames, our guest for this week. Hey girl, how you doing?
Hey.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on.
Yo, no welcome. I'm actually very excited for you to be on because I know you can chat up a storm, and this is what we do on podcasts. We talk, and this is your opportunity. This is your episode, doll.
Yeah.
So
fantastic.
Are you ready to take us from the very beginning? Tell us the origins.
The very beginning.
Well, I mean, okay, we don't have to go into the birth stuff because vaginas and stuff. I'm kidding. Let's talk about.
I came out twirling a canoe and went, dear God, that's the last time I go near one of those until Amsterdam 2013.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, but yeah, well, we can start from wherever you want to, because
Okay.
All right, you ready? Go right ahead.
Yep.
Stage is yours.
Okay. Okay, so look, I think with my coming out story, it's sort of important to note that in today's, do we want to call it political climate, for want of a better term, I would have been openly gay in year 2. But for me, it was, I grew up in a series of country towns. You've got Geraldton and Karratha in Western Australia, and Mackay in Queensland. And this is in the 90s, post-AIDS epidemic, and it's just not the sort of gay-friendly time or gay-friendly places. Mm-hmm. For me, it was prior to being 8, I had ideas that I wasn't like the other boys, and I was never quite sure why. Now, this is the most fucking fabulous coming to terms with one's sexuality story ever. We were in Las Vegas, staying at the New York hotel, and Cher's Believe is the biggest song in the world at the time.
Mm-hmm.
99. Cher's Believe is still the biggest song in the world.
I was going to say, it's still massive.
Yeah, it's still good. Yeah.
But yeah, there's these, we're walking through the lobby, Cher's Believe is playing, and there's these 2 men that walk past me, my mum, and my brother, and they're holding hands and enjoying the fuck out of this song. And I just look at them and I go, oh, okay, 2 men can be a couple. That makes sense. And then, so that was that. But then I go back to the schoolyard in Mackay, and words like poof and faggot are being thrown around the schoolyard, and it's just immediately like, oh, okay, to be a guy that's into other guys is a bad thing. Well, that can't be me. So cue 10 years of repression.
Yeah.
And internalized homophobia, and a lot of stuff that I saw a therapist about in the years since. And look, it's all gravy, baby, now. So it wasn't really until year 11 when I started to, when the puberty is really kicking in, and lots of things are just getting really angsty and horny and all of that. And July 2008, I'm in year 12, and I sit down this one Saturday morning and sort of go, I haven't had a wank about a girl in 6 months.
Yeah.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. And then I'm in Karratha at the time. It's not as bad as like the insane amount of homophobia that you will find in country Queensland. But it's still a small country town. So like within a week of sort of coming to terms with my sexuality, I did just sort of head to the hills at the back of the town, and I spent 3 hours standing on the edge of a cliff, just like trying to bring myself to jump, and I couldn't. Thank fuck.
Yeah.
And so I just sort of sauntered back down the hill, going back home, and sort of going, God, you're so useless, Dames. You can't even you're so useless. You can't even jump off a cliff. So I just sort of the reason I did that was because I just saw the world around me and went, there is no place for me here. I'm going to be greeted or met with just horror and disgust and anger wherever I go, because there is no support for gay people. There is no visibility of gay people, and I'm fucked. So it's thankfully I was able to sort of step away from that and just live in a very loathsome sort of state of mind for quite some time. I started to come out to a few friends, and massive leaps and bounds, and so I was sort of greeted with love and acceptance, and we know it's kind of obvious. Like there was there was the lisp, there was the wrist flicking, there was the sass, there was just so many signs.
The subtlety
the
was
love
not
of share and all of that. Yes,
of course.
No, I've never been discreet. I chose to not come out to my family because I didn't feel comfortable being openly gay in Karratha, even though I was being surrounded by this love and support from those that I had chosen to sort of come out to. But it wasn't until I moved out of home at 17 and moved in with my nan that I started to feel comfortable enough about it that I would be able to come out to family, starting with nan. And
was it still in the country, your nan? Sorry.
Yeah. So nan lives in Geraldton to this day. So my childhood was born in Fremantle, moved to Geraldton, moved to Mackay, moved to Karratha, back to Geraldton. Now I'm here.
Jeez.
Yep.
It's supposed to be London by now, but COVID.
You tell me about that.
So going back to 2009, living with nan. The way I went about coming out to her, just to be certain, is so to come out to nan, I sat her down and we watched the episode of the IT Crowd where they all go and see a gay musical called Gay, and there's a lot of laughs, there's a lot of stereotypes in it, and I'm watching her reaction to all of this very carefully, and she's fine with it. Like she has a few laughs with it. So the next afternoon, I sort of sit her down and go, "Look, Nan, the reason I watched that episode with you yesterday is just because I wanted to make sure that you were cool with that sort of thing." And she goes, "Oh, yeah, I am. Like, I watch all of the shows like that. Little Britain, The Mighty Boosh." And I'll just go, "Nan,
not the thing I was talking about." Yeah.
Yeah.
And she just looks at me and she's shaking her head and it's just expressionless. And my heart is on the floor.
Yeah.
And she just goes, "I know."
So the shaking the head was like, really? You act like I don't know.
Why are you even bothering to come out?
Yeah.
That's it.
So she I just leapt up and gave her the biggest hug and just absolutely sobbed because it was just such a weight off my chest.
Of course.
And
don't forget the shoulders as well, but yeah.
And she just goes, "Look, you'd better ring up your mum. She knows as well." So I do. I ring up mum and I go, "Yeah, mum, are you sitting down? And she goes, no, what's happened? I go, please sit down. No, is everything okay? Mum, just sit down.
Mm-hmm.
And she's sitting down and I just go, Mum, I'm gay. Same silence. And I can just picture her, the same look as Nan, just nodding her head. And she goes in the exact same tone. I know.
Yeah.
And it was just the most obvious thing ever.
Is your Nan the mum of your mum? So
yes.
Is it literally like mother daughter, exactly the same tone?
Yes.
Copy and paste. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's actually we have this thing in my family where Nan will go through all of the male family members.
Yeah.
Like I get called Stephen, Rolly, Keg, Dames. And then recently, about 5 years ago, my mum started doing it as well. I get called Troy, Caleb, Dames. And then it doesn't help that I legally changed my name last year. So there's my dead name is also thrown into the mix as well, just for shits and gigs.
Yeah.
But when I rang up Mum the other day, 3 times I went, Nan, Mum. I've started doing it.
You know what? I'm going to start doing with my guests. Next guest we have on, Aaron, Kieran, Chloe, Jasmine, James, Nick.
You.
You.
So long as you don't get me mixed up with any of my bad exes, I've been called worse.
Well, it's a small world, so no guarantees.
Oh,
I think out of all the men I've dated, there's 3 bad exes.
Yeah.
And they're just I get on with all of my exes. I get on with all of the men I've dated.
Yeah.
Great.
Same
We don't try and have a dirty goss, but it's a way of life, so we'll try our best. All right, so you've come out to your Nan and your mum.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any other people you came out to, or was it just those 2 for a while, or is it still just those 2?
Look, as soon as I was out to Nan, as soon as I was out to Mum, my aunt, and my younger brother and sister, that was that. So I did the well, this is how long ago it was. I did the coming out post on MySpace, and
oh my goodness,
oh my god, that's so far back.
And that was the last thing I ever did on MySpace, because I also did the thing on the same post on, I think it was called the Facebook back then.
The Facebook, that's right. I remember.
And that's that was like my last MySpace post. And one of my first Facebook posts.
Yeah.
So it's I'm aging myself in social medias.
Well, I mean, our main demographic will definitely get it, because they're between 25 to 34, so they'll get it.
They all remember MySpace.
Yeah.
I wonder how many of them still have an active account on there.
I joined MySpace as it was dying. So somewhere in the space is my 12, 13-year-old selves account when I made that. I don't think I put anything on. I hope not. But yeah. So what happened to that once you come out on social media? Did you get like much response from your friends? Was there like a lot of love support? Was it just kind of there, or do you know what happened after that?
It was universally, and I think this is because I've always at least tried to surround myself with good people. It was just almost universal acceptance or love, or that we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that so much. We know.
Honestly, I've been out since 2009, so it's coming up 13 years. I've shocked exactly 10 people with my sexuality in that time.
Got to make that even.
And 5 of them have been in the last 12 months, so I've got to lift my game.
Okay, so you're there. You're getting there.
I am.
Oh, that's really good. Okay, so at this point you were still at Geraldton. So what
Yes.
happened when you moved here? So you moved here. When was that?
I moved here at the end of 2012, and
Right.
I moved here because I was performing at the time. I was sort of doing acting lessons and all of that, and I moved to Perth for the theatre and for the boys, and I've done pretty well in the theatre department.
I'm sure you have for the boys as well, but that's good. So obviously being in the city must have been such a different experience for you, because I know you said you're born in Fremantle, yes, but you didn't spend most of your childhood in Perth, so it was all country towns, and suddenly you got this that being said, Perth is one of the most isolated cities in the world, and it's basically the country town of all the other cities in the world, but it must have been huge compared to actually being in the country. So did you notice much of a cultural difference? Did you try and reach into the gay scene? Was it really easy to get into? Was it a bit of a struggle? Talk us through that.
Let's see. I think the biggest thing for me when I moved to a city was that prior to moving to Perth, plus about for the first 12 months after moving to the city, I would wake up every morning and I'd go, I'm gay, and that's such a weird alien thing. Like that's not the norm. And then once I sort of started to make gay friends and date more men and have more sex, just go to more events, stuff that's just not as widely available in Geraldton. It stopped being unusual, and then it started to become a celebration.
Oh, good. Yep.
Yeah, and it took a very long time to get to that level of celebration.
Yeah.
Probably mid 2014. But it was just, I'd wake up and instead of going, wow, I'm gay, that's not a bad thing. It's just a strange thing,
Yeah. To actually say it out loud to yourselves, like, I'm James, I'm gay, or I know you had a dead name then, but but that's must have been so weird. I mean, it was for me when I started saying it myself, but yeah. So do you have like much memory you could go into about your earlier experiences with dating, or even just being involved in the community? Anything you want to talk about, or anything in particular?
Well, I moved here in November 2012, which was Pride Month. So there was a lot to sort of throw myself at. I can remember going to the Pride Parade in my first oh gosh, this is so naughty. One of my first couple of weekends, and I cannot remember what their names are, but I ended up joining the Out in Perth float that year. The theme was dictionary definitions, and how they have double meanings. So like faggot is a slur, or a celebratory term, but it's also it means a pile of sticks. Queer means strange, but it also means LGBTQIA+.
Not straight.
And so you had the lovely Graham from Out in Perth, just sort of leading this ute with us, holding these giant cardboard cutouts with these letters, and sort of they had letters of the alphabet on the front page, but would sort of he would go open and would open these dictionaries and show what the definition was, or he would yell out queer, and the five of us that had the letters of queer would get into a line and sort of show that off.
Yeah.
And so that was going to be it for me. I was going to leave the just go home because I had work the next day, and then a couple of people in the float. I can't even remember who they are now.
That's right. It was 10 years ago, so no one's going to blame you.
Well, they were gorgeous. But they talked me into going to the court after party, and we ended up having three-way kissy time.
As you do.
And there was kissing, and there was tonguing, and there was and then hands started wandering down. Basically, we ended up upstaging a drag queen's performance by they were doing what they needed to do on the stage.
You never do that.
No.
I would have been cancelled. I would have been cancelled, Lisa.
For anyone listening who's never been to a drag show, just some etiquette for you: never try and upstage a drag queen or drag artist whenever they're on stage doing their thing. Do that afterwards, just so you know.
Yes. As a drag queen myself, yes.
Exactly. So, but anyway, thank you, James, for educating us on that.
In my defense, we were having our second base three-way side stage.
Okay.
That's not much defense, is it?
No.
Really more entertaining, I
mean,
guess.
you weren't on the stage and trying to deliberately knock off the drag performance.
Yeah.
We were just a lot more visible than we planned on being.
And more entertaining.
Hey, Christo, we're not making this a clean podcast anymore because it's just too good.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, Dames, before your episode, we trying to make it as clean as possible, and it's just going to be very, very occasional swear word.
Why the fuck did you get me on, Len?
Because our guest pulled out. But you know what? I don't care because no one under 17 has been listening. So you know what? I don't care.
No.
Go for your life, but still remain professional-ish.
Yeah.
Okay. I really should. I have a bookshop to talk about.
Yes. Exactly.
Which you can come back to later.
We will definitely come back to that because I would love to bring that up, and we'll also put it in the description and socials as well. Anyway, so you were doing a thing. Tell us about you have to go into huge detail about the thing, but that was one of your biggest experiences, would you say?
It's definitely the one I remember the most. Like, I remember waking up the next day with not enough sleep, going into my my Sunday retail job, and just like that happened.
Yeah.
That wasn't a gay awakening, but it was it was a gay level up.
Yeah.
It was round 2.
Reaching new perks.
Bonus round.
Oh my goodness, this is going to be a pain to edit, but I love it. Anyway. So once that happened, anything you want to bring up happened afterwards, or?
No, it's, let's say, I mean, in moving from Geraldton to Perth, I was madly in love with a boy at the time, who is sadly in my past.
Yeah.
But it was a sort of I had aspirations of moving to Perth and being in a relationship with this boy who didn't have those same feelings for me. So 4 months in, when things hit a dead end with him, it was like, well, who can I be now? And it was just I was just surrounded by all of this sex and adventure and all of that. So it was just okay, hi ho, and I was.
It's off to work I go. But yeah, no, it's wonderful stuff. So what about outside of the bedroom, outside of that? I know that's very weird to say as a gay person. But let's just temporarily get out of that stuff for a second. So how about when you were establishing yourself? So let's talk a bit about your theatre background. So you were doing stuff in the country, and then how did you get involved in the Perth theatre scene?
Well, that was so I was purely acting when I was in Geraldton, doing acting lessons as well. They're only just going these days, but there was this local theatre company called Play Lovers, who put on auditions for this musical called Nevermore, which is this musical based on the love life and poetry of Edgar Allan Poe. And I'd been auditioning for the first couple of months that I'd been in Perth, but just wasn't getting anything, because what I'd sort of hadn't taken into account is that in Perth, the community theatre scene is there's just a lot more of it. In Geraldton, it was just the one community theatre club. And it was the same people over and over and over again. Here in Perth, you've got this beautiful community theatre community, and it's people will direct at all these different theatres for all these different companies. People will perform, people will do lighting, stage management, the whole shebang of what you need to put on a theatre production. And there's just, there's a few that are committed to one theatre group. But it's just so fantastic and exciting and lovely that people just go from theatre company to theatre company and doing what they love doing. So in terms of performing in Perth, there is a larger community scene, but there's a larger pool of talent, and there's a more talented pool of talent. So just this newbie who could act and nothing else. I wasn't getting anything at the time. So I just went along to this audition, and you had the stage manager, Bronwyn, sort of meeting people as they were arriving for their audition. And so I auditioned, being not a singer at all, and did Adele's Skyfall, which had just come out.
Oh my goodness, what a hard song to sing.
I butchered that for them as a treat. And I finished the audition. I'm pretty sure the music director went, "Okay, that's enough." And I just sort of came up to the table and went, "Look, if for some reason I don't get a part in this, I'd love to come and work backstage on this." And as I'm sort of leaving, I sort of said the same thing to Bronwyn. Your stage managing, I'd love to just so that I can be involved in theatre again. And that year just sort of became my sort of I wasn't getting any acting gigs, but I kept getting stage managing roles, and I found it was something I enjoyed. And at the end of that year, I went over to London and saw Billy Elliot, the musical, which had just been a dream of mine. It's my favorite musical of all time, and it's just I'd listened to the soundtrack 1,000 times, and to finally get to see it, it was just such a dream. I started crying about 8 weeks before I was due to go and see it.
If you're liking the show so far, feel free to follow us on our socials at Queer Stories on the Swan at our Facebook and Instagram. Also, give us a review on whatever platform you get your podcasts, as we really appreciate the feedback.
And I just went along in the matinee, and there were people in front of me, and this one woman next to me, and that was about it. It was a pretty spacious matinee performance. Lots of spaces. So the show starts. I start sobbing. The woman next to me starts sobbing, and the 3 ladies in front of me just take their seats a further 7 or so rows down, and me and this woman sat right next to me, and no one else around us. We just sort of we just shared this beautiful experience where we just sobbed so much for the next 2.5 hours, and we didn't acknowledge each other once. But it was spiritual.
But you didn't need to. You just were both just so connected in that space.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was my all-time favorite theatrical experience. And there have been some big ones over the years. But I walked out of that theatre sort of going, that I wanna stage manage that on the West End if my acting career doesn't work out. And it didn't. I finally landed a part in a community theatre production, and I got Me Too'd about 4 years before Me Too was a thing. So just from there, I was like, okay, I don't want to be a performer anymore, but for some reason, I'm cool with doing the backstage stuff of this.
Right. Okay. You don't have to if you don't want to, but what do you mean you got Me Too'd?
I had someone put me in a uncomfortable position as a performer.
Right. Okay.
And,
okay.
That didn't bode well with me at all.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Sure. We don't have to go into detail, but just clarify what that meant. Okay. Wow.
And we won't, because if I say something, they can then sue.
Yeah. No. Of course. No problem. So you decided to go into stage managing, and
I did. So I spent 2014. I spent the first half of 2014 because of what had happened. Just taking a bit of a break away from the theatre. Went to Melbourne, saw some theatre there, and it was like, okay, no, I love this too much. I've got to get back into it. I rang up Bronwyn from Nevermore and went, what's on? What are you doing? Can I do anything with you? And she goes, when do you get back? We're doing a show at the Old Mill Theatre.
I love the Old Mill. It's a wonderful theatre.
It's just such a delightful theatre, and the people there are such a delight as well. It bothers me so much that I can't remember the name of this production right now, but it was dark. It was a historical about these baby murdering con artists in the Victorian age.
No, I can't remember. I was trying to scan our memory.
I really wish I knew what it was called.
Yep.
Hey Google.
We'll put it in the comments section when I thought of it in 5 days' time, probably at 3 o'clock.
Thanks, stage manager. So the director and editor, me, will have to take that to account. No, I'm happy to do that if we can find it.
I'll record a line for it in before this goes to air, if you like. But yeah, from there it was basically non-stop community theatre gigs, working 2 jobs, saving up, because I had a new goal, and that was to get into Whopper and study stage management and stage manage Billy Elliot on the West End.
Wow.
Now, Billy Elliot closed on the West End before the end of my first year. You'd think I would have taken that as a hint.
Yes.
But yeah, I did my full 3 years there. Say what you will about your time at Whopper. Everyone does.
I didn't go to Whopper, so I can't really say anything. So.
Oh, you lucky thing.
Yeah, that was one of my dreams too. That was one of my dreams when I was a teenager, and acting was my thing, my calling. I was like, I'm gonna go to Whopper, and then I'm gonna become a star. And no,
nope.
I didn't even audition. Basically, I stepped foot out of Whopper on my last day and literally stopped and went, "Fuck, I don't want to be a stage manager anymore." I wish I'd worked that one out 3 years and $25,000 of HECS earlier.
Yeah. But no experience is wasted. I was always taught that as a kid, and I'm still taught that now.
That's it. And so fortunately, I did sort of find my niche in theatre making, in stage managing. you never would have caught me in a rehearsal room working on someone else's creative endeavor as a stage manager.
Yep.
But certainly one-off live events. I've worked with Tease Industries on their burlesque events. I've worked the Wakakiri Awards. I've worked with the Felix Kane Academy for their international, this is before 2020, international pole dancing competition. So it's some exciting stuff that I've done over the years. Chief of them is for Fringe every year for the last 4 years. I've had the absolute joy, the absolute pleasure and honor of stage managing to Pearl, Fanfare and Spiegel Tent.
Oh wow.
Okay, good Gesundheit. I can't pronounce that. could you pronounce that again? Sorry.
I can. The Pearl, Fanfare and Spiegel Tent.
What does that mean? Do you know?
The Pearl of Fire Mirror Tent.
No. Why not just call it that?
Because culture, that's Christo.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Look, it's you research and you study and you ask what the correct pronunciation of this venue that I love so much is, and I can pronounce it properly. No one else does. Literally everyone else just calls it in their Australian
little Walker accent.
The deeper our Spiegel Tent.
No.
It's just whenever anyone sort of goes like that, I just have to understand that no one cares about these things.
I know. I love being an Aussie, but sometimes our accent just makes me go, "Oof, God." Just putting the record out there. I like being an Aussie. I'm not being anti-patriotic. Just being honest.
I'm okay with it, but I have spent the last 8 years trying to move to London.
Yeah, I know. In our personal conversations, I know you've told me about moving to London. It's definitely been a thing. And then the COVID pandemic hits, so that makes things easier.
Yeah, look, for me it was 2020. I just finished doing my second year in the Pearl, and then moving straight on to work with Perfest, and working all of these long hours, big weeks. You don't sort of have time to check the news and see what's happening. So we sort of get to, and I'll never forget this because it happened on Friday the 13th of March.
It did. Oh my God, it did.
It just announced that our industry, amongst most other industries in the world, alongside just everything, like the world was just going to shut down. Because it's just honestly like, oh, well, what's happening with this cold that's coming out of China?
Yeah.
Oh,
a little bit more than
there
that.
go the rest of my disease.
Yes.
But it's true. That's all we thought it was at the time. We just thought it was this flu strain that, because no one was reacting about it.
No. No
governments were doing anything at the time to stop what would very quickly become a global pandemic and kill millions.
So many people.
Yeah.
And it's just such a tragic, massive sadness that I don't think we'll be able to comprehend for some years to come. That was just preventable.
Yes.
So many different levels.
Yes, and we're definitely living through history with recent events as well. So let's bring the conversation back to the queer community. We're going back in the bedroom. So sorry to be out of the bedroom for so long. How did
fun while it lasted?
How did experiences, just gay experiences and everything? How did it affect you once the pandemic came down? Did it really because we couldn't see people as willy-nilly as we used to be, as we used to. Did that kind of affect you mentally, or was there kind of some obstacles you really had to overcome?
Okay, so
I know there was a lot. So
my honest answer, and I feel guilty for this every time I say it, is that appreciating that here in Western Australia, we haven't had to deal with the pandemic itself until the last couple of months.
Yeah.
Typical WA being 2 years behind the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So it's we went into a lockdown, and the federal government just put everyone that was put out of work, myself included, on a job seeker or job keeper. And then it was double the amount of money that you get paid for being on benefits.
Yeah.
So for me, once I was able to sort of go, okay, my career has just come to a stop. I was going to be directing. I was going to be doing the Edinburgh Fringe. I can't even remember what other work I'd lost. But as soon as I sort of came to terms with that, came to terms with the fact that I wouldn't be able to move to London that year, I was able to just really focus on just having some time to just relax, having some time to just stop. I mean, the world is on fire outside, but for me personally, it was just an opportunity to take a paid vacation.
Yeah.
Yep. Of course.
Just about.
Yeah. In your home.
Which I yeah. I was actually quite content to just sit down and just read books and not have to not really have to worry about anything, because it was just and I feel like the world has gone back to this, in that the world is just such a fast-paced, angsty, traumatic place these days. As a human race, we were able to just sort of just stop and have a breather for a second, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I actually really like that take on that. There's because it was a difficult time. People wouldn't be able to work. People had families. Mental health was just not at a great time for a lot of people. But there was also a lot of people that allowed to just, like you said, just to read books, to get more connected with yourself. And I think that's a really good take to think about too. Yeah. And we have to remember, when in WA, yes, we currently, as of recording this, as this episode comes out, we're still seeing a lot of daily cases shoot up. But we've got to remember the eastern states have had this for years. There's floods happening in New South Wales and Queensland, which is horrific. But it's been a real test of humanity to see how we can stand together, but also, like you said, take a breather from how fast paced the world is. So, and I think that's a really cool way that you've looked at that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was coming from a place of privilege as well, in that, I was able to live comfortably on the amount of money that the government was giving me. I have a stable home that I live in. I don't have a need to go out and be doing stuff every weekend. Were I still 25, it would have been a different story. But I'm 30, and more and more often I find myself just loving a quiet Saturday night in.
Totally agree.
I definitely now. I'm nearly, at that age too. I'm 27 in July. I'm already like, I'd rather just sit home and just listen to audiobooks or whatever. And
it happens.
Yeah, it does.
It's we're only young ones, so we make the most of it while we can.
Yep.
And because it will hit us all one day, whether that's at 30 or 40 or 21.
Just live your life.
Where you just go, okay, no, I just want to be peaceful and quiet now.
Yeah, and there's nothing.
It's the ones I do feel sorry for are the ones that at the start of this pandemic were 18, had all of this opportunity ahead of them, and because of the world that we live in, we ended up with a pandemic that was just unstoppable, and they are very much having their youth stolen from them.
Of course.
So,
of course.
What's happening with this pandemic now, the repercussions of it are going to be felt for the rest of human society.
Oh, definitely.
To some sort of degree.
Yeah.
But it's just as the years go on, we will see more and more side effects of it.
Oh, of course. You know, I was just saying to friends of mine, like 20 years from now, 2045 or whatever, you know, kids are going to be asking us, like, what was it like back then? And is that why things are so different now? You know, that's 100% going to be a huge research assignment in high school or uni or whatever.
Yeah.
And I agree, like, there is people who are losing that vital chapter in their lives, or it's being delayed. But I think it's also allowing humanity in the future to really look at how we've been handling things. You know, why do we study history? To learn from the mistakes of the past. This is one of them. This is 100% one of them. But just to draw back into queer history, you know, as we do live in a community whose culture is not always, but a lot of it is quite, you know, sexualized, one night stands and everything. And when the pandemic came down, that ground to a halt. And I think people's friendships and belonging in a community and being each other rather than just having those quick one night connections, I think that's what's really pulled people through. And you know, one of the big things was starting podcasts. And yes, we're a bit late to the table. We aren't doing 2020, but I think it's a really interesting time. It's challenging but interesting. But so just reinforcing what you were saying, James. So I'm throwing my 2 cents in.
For me, it was this doesn't happen very often, but I had a boyfriend at the time. We bumped into each other at the artist bar during the Fringe about a month before everything went to poop. And we just sort of clicked and connected, and as you know, we sort of went into towards the pandemic, we just sort of got closer and became boyfriends. And then all of a sudden I've got this boyfriend who's now, you know, we've been seeing each other in person and it's all very lovely and all of that, but it's now put onto online dating. And that was an interesting experience for me, because he lives, you know, 5 kilometers away from me, but because he was a essential worker, and this is, you know, when we were lockdown, by his job, I couldn't see him. But we were FaceTiming every night. You know, we'd chat. He would ask me how my day was, and I'd go like, oh, I just, you know, my sleeping pattern just did its 7th lap, and he would tell me, gosh, I just tripped over myself. Edit that out. And he would tell me about his day. And it was really sweet. Like, you know, there wasn't any of the e-sex or anything like that, but you know, just little things like, you know, telling each other how handsome we are and how much we miss each other, and I'd read him short stories, and it was so sweet.
So sappy. But I love it.
I know.
Yeah, I understand that, because obviously I live with my partner, but he was an essential worker, so he had to move out of the house and move into the shed. So I was alone for those 3 months by myself in a big house. So it was very hard for me. But yeah, I completely understand. It's hard when you're in a relationship but you're not together.
Yeah. I mean, my boyfriend at the time, we weren't living together. We'd be visiting each other, but it would be like, can't really see each other. There'd be times where we had to like wear masks, and it just didn't feel like we were able to do as much as we used to. Like we used to go out all the time, and it was all that, and there was less of that. We weren't sure what was going on, what we were doing. He was an essential worker as well. I wasn't. So
we've got a type.
Yeah, we've got a. Yeah,
well, I'm a housewife, so
I would not be a good housewife because I am terrible. But it's interesting, isn't it? So what happened with your relationship in the end? Did it work out? What you said you had a boyfriend, so obviously ended. But...
Yeah, no, we're not together anymore. But as is my pattern, it's he's a good person. He's a good friend. He was a good friend before we dated, and it's just where you can with me. Like, it's no use throwing out the bathwater with anything that sort of might have gone down.
Yeah.
You keep the good people in your life.
Absolutely.
I don't understand this this whole thing of in the worlds of gay and in the worlds of straight, cutting off or enemizing, enemyizing your former partner.
Yeah. Look, I don't necessarily either. I mean, over the very few relationships I've had, two of them who we didn't work out, we're still friends and we're still okay. I don't know if it could be just a popular trend, like, oh my God, my ex is this and I love them so much and now I hate them. But there is also, some emotional damage. I'm not quoting a meme. So I just dated this podcast. God damn it. But and definitely agree with you, James. Got to really keep the people who are not worth your time. That sounds egotistical. So keep the good people in your life. Keep the good people in your life.
Yeah.
So, okay.
But I think there's a sort of society's expectations thing to it as well.
Yeah.
Now, society's expectations, and therefore the expectations that we put on ourselves because of society's expectations, are that what we do with our life is that we meet another person of the opposite sex, same class, same skin color. We marry that person, we have kids with that person, we retire with that person, and we die.
Yeah.
And it's just the one person that you do this with ever. So the three of us, we've sort of pushed against that already by being into men.
Just by existing.
You two, but I don't know about you two, but I push that further by being polyamorous. When I date, it is open relationships. It is dating multiple men at a time. It's, I think, because of these expectations in society, we have a lot of toxicity. We have a lot of unwanted children. We have a lot of unhappy or unnecessary relationships. We have domestic violence. We have weaponized children in separations. And I just wish more people could see that you don't need to have a partner. You don't need to have kids.
No,
you don't have to get married.
The world is a
be independent.
And I think I'm kind of slightly quoting a video game here, but it's true. The world is made of many different tapestries and colors. And as you have the idealized version and everything's all preppy and all wonderful, but that's not the way of the world. I would love a time where we have world peace and everything. Do I think it's possible? I don't think so, because as humans, we are so needing to control everything, and that's in our lives. And some people extend that to the things around them, including people. But I think because we've had a polyamorous guest before. They've got a fiance and a boyfriend at the same time. Now I couldn't do that because I just don't think I could. Nothing against what people do. If I've got a partner, I want to just have that with them. I don't know, maybe a one night stand thing, but doesn't really matter. It's emotional attachment that I value above all else. But with stuff like polyamorous and even different gender identities, we've had non-binaries, trans, and all that. And the more we talk about these things like podcasting, the more awareness that's been brought up. And now people are questioning and talking about things. Yeah. And societal norms are becoming more and more just I don't want to say a thing of the past, but they're less important to so many
Yeah.
people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's still a place for those societal norms. Like, I don't.
Oh, like definitely. If you subscribe to that, then there's nothing wrong with that. It's just what people want. You know, you're not hurting anyone, so go for it. Yeah.
If you want to have kids, have kids. If you want to be monogamous, be monogamous.
Yeah.
I don't believe in this sort of thing that's said from time to time that humans are meant to be polyamorous. I think that there's people that's supposed to be monogamous. I think there's people that are supposed to be polyamorous.
Yeah.
I think there's people that are polyamorous that are supposed to be monogamous, and I think there's monogamous people that are supposed to be polyamorous.
Yeah. Let's stop putting people into boxes and just have free reign. Okay. Like let's stop trying to label everything.
Just live the life you want to live.
Exactly. Precisely.
It's situational as well. You may find yourself in one relationship and go, oh, okay, I want to be monogamous with you. Or you may find yourself being polyamorous with someone else.
Exactly. Precisely. What I usually round up, well, I think we've kind of covered these. Do you have advice for anything? Because we've just done a ton of it. Do you have one piece of advice for people who may be going a similar journey with you, growing up in the country, having to deal with internalized homophobia, outside homophobia, and then moving to the city where things are so much different cultural wise? Any advice for people going through that journey?
Oh, look, it's so easy to turn around and go, it gets better, because we all know it does. But when you're sitting there as this little gaby, you don't believe that for a second. You just do not know how that could possibly be true. We've sort of got to act on that. I had a friend message me recently. I mean, we've sort of got, the world is just such a more open and accepting and loving place of queer people these days than what it was 13 years ago. But on the flip side of that, our queer kids are going through a lot at the moment, particularly the trans ones. You've had bills in the Don't Say Gay in Florida, the anti-trans bill in Texas, which has had families fleeing to other states. Recently in Australia, you had the religious discrimination bill. And it's the same thing as we went through the plebiscite 5 years ago now. It was just, end of the day, we just wanted the same rights as other people, but we had to go through this big brouhaha of 7 months of media coverage and the It's Okay to Say No campaign spewing their bile.
It was an awful time.
It was, and that's what our queer youth, our trans people are going through at the moment. Anyway, what we have to do as older established gays is, these kids, they just need to see that their lives turn out well in 10, 15, 5, 2 years time. As the older queers, it is our responsibility, it is our job to be unapologetically and openly queer in everything that we do.
And definitely in educating the youth on our history. And that's what I hope to do with this podcast as well, because I like having people who are older, who, as well as talking about their own experiences, because there's a lot of history that is not often broadcast and exposed to. And I think it's important through education that we do that. And I'm hoping to do that through this podcast. But no, definitely. Thank you so much, James, for that. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much.
So, your book stuff. Your bookshop.
Yes. Okay.
Talk about that.
Okay. Look, in terms of leaving theatre and going into book selling, I just wanted to preface it by sort of going, I didn't want to leave theatre, but it's only because I found something else that I love just as much. It was time to do a career change. So I write books, I read books, I run an Instagram account called Dames Read Some Books. And it's a friend of mine, Kerry, who for the last 2.5 years has run this gorgeous little traveling bookshop that goes around to all of the markets. You may well have seen them at Fair Day this year. Has opened up a brick and mortar bookshop on the Rockingham foreshore.
Oh, wow.
And so we opened at the start of the month, and our aim as a bookshop is to focus on the local writers that we have here in Western Australia. We have such a diverse range of local authors here in WA. You've got Al Campbell, Michael Trent, Holden Shepherd, Craig Silvey. We're running out of time, so I'll stop listing them. But aside from that, our focus is also on sort of underrepresented, diverse or inclusive books. So we have the educational kids section, and it's there's books such as I Am Jazz, which is about a transgender girl in a kindergarten class, and that's for the trans kids because they do exist, to see themselves in the book, but it's also there as a sort of learning resource for parents, for the students in that girl's class. There's that. It's books about autism, books about wheelchair users. The whole, we've got a book about what happens when your grandmother dies, which has just been this tragic but beautiful sort of resource that has sold a few copies to funeral directors because they themselves don't have a resource to sort of explain that sort of stuff to kids. First Nations books, what I'm most proud of. So this isn't my priority, but it is my passion project, is I am putting together one of the largest ranges of queer books that you will find in the Perth area. I want to be right up there. Thank you. I want to be right up there with our friends at Crow Books and Rabble Books in the variety of books that we sell across the entire queer spectrum. Including different faiths, different skin colors, just the sort of books that you would not find in your Dymocks or your QBD. So I'm very proud of what we're putting together there, and I'm very proud of the work that we've put together in putting together this bookshop on the Rockingham foreshore.
Oh, Dames, that is so exciting. I love this so much. And I'm so happy we were able to give you a platform to promote that. So really, really appreciate it. All right. So we better wrap this up because the timer is nagging me. It's just staring at me. So James, thank you so much for joining, and have a good rest of the weekend.
You're so welcome. And darling, I do just want to say, congratulations on getting this off the ground. I know broadcasting is a passion of yours, and it's just so wonderful to seeing you getting into podcasting, and it's actually been quite an honor to be on the show. So thank you so much. Proud of you.
Shall I leave you guys alone?
No, because then it will definitely not be a clean podcast. Anyway. All right. Well, thank you so much for that, Dame. And stop at you. Anyway, so we better let you go, and good luck with everything with the bookstore. We'll definitely be leaving some links in the description and on social media and all the rest of it. Okay, perfect. James, thank you so much, and we'll chat to you later.
Bye. Thank you, boys.
Thank you for listening to Queer Stories on the Swan. You can leave a review for us wherever you get your podcast.
You can find us on our socials on Facebook and Instagram.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Christo.
And
stay fabulous.